Turn this one on. There you go. Can you tell if they can hear me? Can you tell if they can hear me? Can everybody hear me okay? All right. Oof. That's loud. Everybody hear me okay? Okay, I'm going to do my best to talk into this. I don't like microphones generally, but I'll do my best. Okay, well, welcome. This is the first official class, right? After the orientation? First official class to the Evanston Jumpstart program. My name is, hold your applause, please. My name is Robert Conde. I am the Southwest Regional Director for the Small Business Development Center. I am headquartered in Rock Springs, but I cover the 4 counties in Southwest Wyoming. Has anybody ever heard, dealt with, sworn at the Small Business Development Center before? Oh yeah, you don't count. We had one here, a few of them, one back here in the corner. Okay, so what I want to do anyway, or plan to do, is just explain a little bit of what the Small Business Development Center does, and then we will jump into the fun world of business planning. That sound okay? So as I mentioned, I'm the Southwest Regional Director. The Small Business Development Center is a grant-funded program through the University of Wyoming, the Small Business Administration, the SBA, and also through the Wyoming Business Council. So we're kind of like a federal/state employee, but we go through the University of Wyoming. And the reason why, why I like this organization, as I mentioned, it's grant funded, which means all of the work that we do throughout the state and all the time that we spend with people is of no cost to people, businesses of Wyoming, which I think is awesome. There's about 8 other people who do what I do as far as talking with clients go. And we have our own kind of expertise that we offer the state. And what's nice is when you become kind of part of the Small Business Development Center, or you sign up to be, I guess, a client, if you will, you get access to all of it. We have people on staff who are great with social media marketing. We have people on staff, international trade, cybersecurity. What else? QuickBooks. I'm a QuickBooks certified pro advisor. I help people I usually always see some eyes light up when I say that. And all of the time spent with that is of no cost. I don't do the books unless the price is right, I guess. No, I don't do the books, but I'll help you troubleshoot them and get them where they need to be. I've been doing that for a long time and feel like I'm pretty well-versed in that stuff, and we can get you where you need to be. What else? We got HR people on staff. We do everything, the Small Business Development Center, we do everything from, or at least when I look at or think of when people see the Small Business Development Center, they think of, well, maybe it's just getting started, right? We're going to talk about the entity. We're going to put together a business plan, maybe some cash flow projections or whatever to take to a bank. And then after that, it's kind of like you're on your own. Thanks for coming in. But what we do is we'll go all the way from the beginning, the middle, all the way to exit strategies. We have people on staff who can help with get a kind of a estimated general valuation of your business if you're trying to sell. We can look at another business if you're trying to buy and say, hey, that's pretty good as far as the price, or maybe we ought to go back and digger with them a little bit. Anyway, so we offer a lot of things, and there are a lot of things underneath, or different kind of organizations, if you will, underneath the Small Business Development Center umbrella. One of them, which I'll harp on a lot tonight, is called the Market Research Center. It's pretty straightforward, just as it sounds. They have access to a lot of paid databases that would cost money if you or I wanted to get information from it. But we buy those, basically, and then we pose questions to them, right? So if you're in or you're new to an industry, you've been in the industry for a little while, but you want to know about pricing, or you want to know about the demographics of a certain area or within a certain radius of where you're at, these guys are really, really good at finding that information. And as we're going through kind of the 2 different papers that I gave you, you'll be able to see maybe where that market research center could go and answer a question while you're filling out the rest of that business plan. Does that make sense? Again, I'll do lots of shameless plugs for them as we go. So we also have somebody else or another group in this under the umbrella that's called the Apex Accelerator. It used to be called the Procurement Technical Assistance Center. We got a lot of acronyms and stuff. It's pretty awesome, but I'll try and explain them as well as I can. Anyway, they can help with government contracting. If you have a product or something that you feel that a government entity might be interested in, they can help you get to the point where you can put your hat in the ring, right? Because not everybody can just go for a government contract. You have to have certain things. It's like a SAM's registration and DUNS number and all that stuff. They can help you with that. They don't guarantee any contracts, but they'll get you to the point where you can put your hat in the ring and be just as well off or to potentially get that contract as anybody else. One more, and then we'll dive into the business plan aspect of it. Is called the WSSI STTR. More acronyms, right? So basically it's the Small Business Innovation Research. There's another acronym, SBIR. It's monies that are available from the government if you have a product that the government might potentially be interested in. They'll give you research and development monies up to a certain point, but it's pretty large. It can be in upwards of $5 million if the product is in the right place. So I just threw up a lot of stuff. If you have questions about any of this, you have my contact information. Oh, you know what? I need to go and get my contact information. I don't have it in the things. I'll go get it. And also it's right there if you just want to write it down real quick. At the end of the class today, I'll give out a little bit of a valuation, and you can put your information on that valuation as well, and we'll get in contact and talk about whatever we need to talk about at that point. Okay, lots of information to begin. Any questions before we dive in? Can everybody hear me okay? Do I need to be right here? What if I did this? Oh man, I'm so smart. Look at me go. No questions about the SBDC, any of the things underneath it. And please, as we go along, any questions that pop up, shoot the hand, blurt it out, whatever. Are we trying to do, we're going to try and pass that around. So it's more of a hand, I guess. And then we'll go from there. We good? Okay. So, I talked for too long. Bang. All right. So this is our agenda here. What does it mean to be an entrepreneur? We'll talk a little bit about that just to get the gears rolling a little bit. Building your business model, and then we'll follow up with questions. Does that sound okay? Okay, business ownership. Advantages. Let's start with advantages. Blurt them out. Make your own what? Money. Yep. Somebody said be your own boss. Set your own schedule. What else? Tax deductions. Yes, sir.
In control of the quality of what you do.
Mm-hmm.
Well, your customers face to face.
Customer contact. Yeah, you guys are good. You. Uh-huh. What else? Come on, right side of the room. Okay. Good. You guys nailed a lot of them. Make your own decisions, direct customer contact, personal satisfaction, hopefully, right? Hopefully you do something or I guess that was part of that, doing what you enjoy. Hopefully you do that and you don't go into business and something that you hate. Wealth and job security, contributing to other successes. I like that one too. Okay, so with advantages comes the disadvantages. What are they?
Stress. You're responsible for everything.
Buck stops with you, right? You can't say, go to talk to the boss anymore. Like, crap, that's me. What else? Yeah, you're responsible for all of it.
More taxes.
Yes. Uncle Sam needs it. Longer hours. What else? Anything else anybody can think of? Angry people. Yeah. Somebody said somewhere here. No. You're always long hours, right?
Costs.
One more time.
Costs.
Costs. What did you say, Dave? No paycheck. Potentially, hopefully you get some money, right? Okay, still not your own boss. What does that mean?
You're at
The mercy.
you're at the mercy of your customer.
Mm-hmm.
They're the boss.
Mm-hmm. You can have an awesome thing or awesome business, but if they don't come in, doesn't do you any good, does it? Large financial risks sometimes, right? Depending on the type of business that you go into, that initial capital cost can be large, can be small too. Just depends on what you go into. Long and sometimes hard hours. We talked on that. Not much spare time. Income not always steady. Anybody in Wyoming deal with that? Pretty cyclical here, aren't we? Up and down, depending on how warm or cold it is outside. And right now it's pretty freaking cold. Buck stops with you. We talked about that. Doing the task that you don't like. What is it? Yeah, record keeping. You know what's super weird is I love it. I love it. I don't know why, but I love finding a problem and fixing it with the numbers. Anyway, I don't know. I'm a weirdo. Okay. Yeah, I do. I have all kinds of time. This is what I do. And I'm serious when I say that. I will definitely walk through anything that I can walk through with anybody, and any other questions that we might have. So for sure. Lawsuits and regulations, kind of part of the buck stops with you, right? We got to deal with all that. All right. Good. That was good. Okay, good news. 63,185 small businesses in Wyoming-ish. You know that I'm sure that number fluctuates a little bit. Wyoming small businesses employ about 2/3 of the state's private workforce. About 96% of small business employers, that's what we make up in the state. And firms with less than 100 employees make up the largest share of business employers. So one of my favorite questions to ask when I give this presentation, if you've heard it like 100 times, you can't answer this question. How many employees can you have in your business and still be considered a small business per SBA standards? More. Who said it? 500. You believe that? You can have 499 employees in your business and you're still considered a small business. Really weird, huh? It doesn't seem like that's a small business if you have 500 employees, but it's kind of crazy. Did you just know that or you guessed? Nice. Do you work for a bank? Oh, nice. Cool. Okay. Okay, bad news. Estimated that 30% of new businesses fail in the first 2 years and 50% of those close in the first 5. Why? It is hard. Yep.
Whether it's customer interaction or just themselves,
Mm-hmm. Run out of money. Risk management. Why else? Market fluctuations. Living in Wyoming. Competition. It's true. One more time. COVID. Yeah, I can honestly say I've never gotten that answer before, but actually, no, I haven't, because during COVID we weren't doing this, so I didn't get the face-to-face time. You're right. On the same line, a lot of the time, or not a lot of the times, but I have seen before where somebody was just like, "Hey, I'm starting. I need 50,000, but I'm going to start with 20." And so they start behind that 8 ball, and that makes it really hard for them to catch up when they do that. Okay. So that was just hopefully a little exercise. We're going to get things rolling a little bit. Now we're going to jump into this. Well, we're going to jump into both. So this is a written out business model canvas. So this is what this is. We're going to talk about, I believe there's 9. Yeah, we're going to talk about all 9 of those. And how they can help us answer questions as we start to think about the business plan and what we can put in there. So, well, first off, before we dive into that, the big one, right? The business plan outline. you can see if we go to, we're going to skip kind of the fluff at the beginning and go to page 4. So as we go through on most of these, if not all of them, I'm going to try and relate what we're talking about and the ideas that we're grinding away on to where they would be in this business plan outline. So you can see the reason why I like this outline is because it poses questions as we go along. If you'll see in like executive summary, business description, all those, it just says, it kind of tells you, hey, written last, but by far the most important part of your business plan is the executive summary. The text can be as short as 1/2 page, but should not exceed 2 pages in length, and then it gives you a bunch of questions. This isn't a catch-all, do-all, right, for the executive summary, but it's ideas of what is going to be in that section. You'll go into that second section, the business description, part A, start with a mission statement. We'll talk a little bit about that. Part B, it says history on page 5. For startups, is your business a startup, acquisition, or expansion? The reason why I like this is because you can answer that question, right? Answer the next question, why did you decide to open, expand, or purchase this business? Get rid of the questions and formulate your paragraph. And that's what they like. That's what's needed in that history. You can put more information in there if you want. Same thing with vision and future plans. Industry trends. That was one of the places where I feel like the Market Research Center, right? See, there's my first plug. Really can fill in the gap, I guess, for people who are writing a business plan. Is like that. Industry trends. What are the industry trends in your business? Rather than you having to Google and trying to find a reputable source, this Market Research Center can go out there and find it for you. And they'll send back a big old report embedded with all kinds of PDFs, Excel worksheets, whatever it is, with a ton of information. And obviously, if you could put down a few more questions, then that report would be even that more beneficial. But we can just send one question. Whatever we need answered, that's what we send. I wouldn't send like 100 at a time, but we can break it down and send as many separate ones as we need. Does that make sense? So when we're looking at the business model canvas written out, what we're doing is hopefully on the right side, there's questions to be answered, right? We're going to start answering these questions or asking these questions to ourselves to be ready to input this information from the business model canvas into the business plan. Fair? Any questions? Good. Okay. First one. Hopefully I have them in the right kind of order. Customer segments. Back to the packet, long ways packet. I don't have a title on it, but I should. Not the business plan. The long ways packet. I like it. So we're going to talk about customer segments. The place where this would probably, well, not probably, where this will definitely fit is if you go to on the business plan outline, go to page 7, and we can kind of see, you can even mark that here on customer segments. Page 7, market analysis, target market. Has anybody ever heard that target market phrase? What is it?
The specific group of customer base that you're trying to target and sell to. You're not just throwing a product or a service out there for anybody. You're targeting a certain demographic of people that you want their business because you have a product or service specifically for them.
Do you want to come up here and? Okay. Another one of my favorite questions to ask. Coca-Cola, right? We know Coca-Cola. Who's their target market? Anybody? Pepsi drinkers. Who else? Coca-Cola. If you had to guess who Coca-Cola, polar bears and Santa Claus. Young kids. Who else? Wow, that is bright. Who said that? Oh, you cheater.
No, I haven't heard
You're right. 31 to 34-year-old females. Coca-Cola took their target market and went all the way down here. Why? Because they do the grocery shopping, like they said, right? They have the buying power. Now, will they be like, if somebody came into Albertsons or whatever, and it's like, no, you're 30, I'm not selling to you. You're not in my target market. No, they're not going to do that, right? They will sell to anybody, but the reason why they bring that customer segment, that target market, as far down as they can is for, I think you mentioned it. Why? Because that's who we're selling to, but also, we'll talk about it a little bit later, for marketing purposes, right? If you're going to spend money marketing, you want to spend money on the people who are more likely to buy your product. Does that make sense? So customer segment, what we're trying to do, what we're trying to figure out, for whom are we creating value? Those questions on the right. Who are our most important customers? So start thinking about that. You can write some notes down if you want. That's kind of why that right side is open. And then you can transfer these into the business plan side. Is that fair? How many customer segments can you have? Okay. I actually like that answer. I don't think you're going to have 100 different customer segments, but I think you could have multiple. Is that fair? It makes sense to me. Okay. That's good. I like that. Any questions about target market? Why it's important? Or customer segments. Sorry, I got to stay to the, what did I call it? Long side packet? Long ways packet. Long ways packet. Oh, I just hit that. Hopefully that's okay. I didn't. Same diff. Yeah, and that's what this business model canvas is. It's just something that we're trying to get the gears rolling, right? And so when you get to the point where the customer segments or you answer those questions over there, you have an idea. I think that my product or my service is going to go more towards this group of people. Then that's what you'll take from here and put it into that business plan. Good question. What else? Anything? Pretty straightforward. Most of these on this business plan model canvas, the long ways packet, is pretty straightforward. It demonstrates and asks the questions, and then as you move forward and translate that to the business plan outline, you can hopefully see where that correlation comes in. Good? Okay, value proposition. Again, we kind of talked about that a little bit. Yeah, I did do it right, hopefully anyway. Another word for this value proposition, we talked about a little bit on that first page, your mission statement, right? You're basically telling people what? What are you trying to tell people with a value proposition or a mission statement? What specifically about your product? There you go. Why somebody should come to you or your business as opposed to somebody else's. That's your value proposition to them, right? Especially if you have a decent amount of competition. We've got to figure why would they come to me when they can go down the street and get the same thing? Solves a customer problem or satisfies a customer need. So I mentioned that you could put this. So business plans, well, I'll go back again a little bit. Has anybody ever written a business plan for a business? 35 years ago. All right. Anybody else? We got one more ish outline, white papered it. Okay, I like it. So one thing you'll learn when you look at this business plan and you look at probably even some of this business model canvas is it's very what did it say? Redundant and repetitive and redundant, right? It's very repetitive. You're going to say some things in one section, and you'll say, if not the exact same thing, something very, very similar in the next section, or 2 sections down, or whatever it is, right? A lot of the times, and David, you can tell me I'm a liar, but sometimes, like if bankers get a business plan, they'll go for certain sections. True or false? What's the sections? Put you on the spot here. A couple of them.
Most bankers like to go to how you're driving revenue,
To the back.
and then they like to go towards the expense side.
Uh-huh.
Basically, see, make sure there's a payment
A lot of financial side of things.
most of the time. But
Maybe an executive summary here and there. Huh. Okay. So it might seem like you are repeating yourself. That's because you are a lot. But that's okay. Because if you go to different bankers, they're gonna bounce around. Hopefully they read the whole thing. Sometimes they do just want to know, what are the projections, money-wise, those types of things.
hey, Rob, I will say this though, when a business
Hang on. Okay, now go.
So sorry about that. I will say this: when businesses do present a business plan, that tells the banker sitting on the other side of the desk just how serious they are. I mean, they've taken the time, because it's not something, as you can see, there's a lot of different sections. You could spend a lot of time writing this and coming up with the right, keywords, triggers that make you feel or see a certain thing they want you to see in their presentation. But it means a lot when they can spend the time with something like that, put it on paper,
Mm-hmm.
and then be able to share it. So
I'd agree with that. 100%. I'd agree with that. Assuming, like you're saying, that how far can I go this way and that way and be in frame? I can go all the way out. Okay. I agree with you that writing it and putting something together, I actually tell people that when they come into my office. If you go to a banker, right, with one of these business plans filled out, cash flow projections filled out, what you need the money for, how much you need exactly, not just I think I could get by with 50 grand. No, I need $62,432.17. And here's where it's all going to go. And here's how I'm going to pay you back. And here, whatever, everything that it says in the business plan, here's my collateral, all that stuff. They'll be pretty flabbergasted, really. And then take you for what it is. They'll probably ask you some questions, make sure you know what it is, but you know your stuff. But if you can take something like that to a banker, they know you're legit, for real. Fair? Cool. Any questions about value proposition? Again, the question's on the right. What value do we deliver to the customer? That's the big one. What problems are we helping to solve? Those are probably the 2 biggest questions that I would answer out of that. And then you can do, to correlate that to the business plan, we talked about we talked about page 4, I believe, where the mission statement is on the bottom. But then you can also put some of that information about the product and what you deliver. You could probably even do that in page 6 in part A. Clarify exactly what your business offers and your plans for the future direction of the business. Again, you may even find some other ones where you're like, oh, that kind of fits in here. And I was just going to say, I don't think a business plan can be too long, but I think that's a lie. I think it can be too long. If you're succinct and to the point, that's good. It's better that way than being wordy. Fair? If you want that banker to read it. It's better that way than being wordy. That's what I think. So I spent a little bit of time in the banking industry. What do they call us? Recovering bankers. I'm a recovering banker. Before I took this position. And I ran the gamut of business plans that I saw. Everything from one that I'll show you a little bit later in this presentation to here's a 75-page business plan. You're just like, oh my gosh, there's no way I'm going to get through all of that, It is usually they're pretty well thought out, but it's a ton of information and maybe too much, I dare say. Anyway, that was kind of a little tangent, but we're back now. Okay, any questions on value proposition? Okay. Now, I think, hopefully I got this one correct. Oh, yeah, nope, I did. Okay, channels. And when we're talking about channels, we're talking about communication, distribution, and sales channels. Which basically means what? How we're going to do what? How we're going to get the word out. Right? What are we going to do? What type of channels are used right now, or can we utilize to get the word out? What's the big one? Social media. Right? What else is there? Radio? Somebody said email? Email? What else? Okay. Flyers? The old paper in the door trick. I like it. Word of mouth is a big one. I would say that that's a pretty big one in Wyoming in general, wherever you're at, just because of the size that we are. Yeah. Online presence. Online presence. Say that again. Googleable. I think that should be a real word if it's not. It does. I understand it. So you're right. Print media. Yay or nay? Some like newspaper, magazine. Well, and so that brings up the question, right? Is that where we're at? The answer is what? Maybe. Bang! Look at her go over here. I'm not dating anybody, right? But who generally looks at the print media? The older people. Yeah. Well, sometimes, right? But realistically, this is another question that I like to ask when I'm talking about this, because realistically, people go where first? Internet, right? We don't have phone books anymore. We don't have anything like that anymore. It's fast food near me, bowling near me, whatever it is, right? It's Googleable, right? But as she mentioned, depending on who you're trying to get to, your target market, your range, that might be exactly where you go, is that print media stuff. So the channels, what we start to think about is how we're going to get our name out. Oh, catch that every once in a while. And the correlation to this one will be page 8, F. Marketing strategies. Present a clear and concise picture of how you plan to market, sell your product or service, and how these strategies will produce profits. There's some stuff in here you'll go through and you'll see, like if you go to page 8, this doesn't have really anything to do with channels, but if you go to page 8, part C, the second bullet point. Is your building energy efficient, or can it be modified to decrease energy usage? I don't know that I would spend a ton of time on that. Some of these questions in here, they talk about being green and doing those types of things, which is fine, but sometimes I don't know if it's worth the paragraph to say, or even to go, maybe that's something that you want to go find out and say, hey, is it? Am I energy efficient? Do I have the right windows? Do I have this and that, whatever it is? But my point at this was some of these questions you might not use, and you can just kind of throw it out. You don't have to answer every single dot that's in here. That's what I'm driving at.
People like say we were in Colorado, like that would
You're right. You're right. Depending on where you're at, yeah. Mm-hmm. That's probably maybe a little more of what I was driving at, that it might not be as big of a deal here, but I may be incorrect. Oh, she needs the mic. Get it. You have to stand up too. Just kidding.
I just said, like, if we were in Colorado, I feel like that would be more of a question that you'd want answered on there, because it would be a bigger deal, because they have like no sacks and like, so it would be a bigger deal. But in Wyoming, I don't feel like it's as higher.
Is that fair to everybody? Everybody agree with that? Don't agree? You can come talk to her after if you don't agree. Just kidding. Okay. No. Okay. That's good. All right. Now we're going to move to the fourth one, customer relationships. That is, again, pretty self-explanatory. It's the next one down on that page, right? Clarify the type of relationship it wants to establish with each customer segment. Right? How are we going to do two different things? The first is get clients, and the second is what? Retain them. Keep them. How are we going to do that? What type of, and I think that even goes back to a little bit of what you were saying about kind of that word of mouth thing, right? That's part of the marketing, how the word of mouth is going to play into it. And the customer relationships, if I remember correctly. See, again, you could probably put that on page 9 where it says promotion, advertising, and direct selling. And then down the next one, customer service, right? How are you going to handle complaints? How are you going to get people in the door? And that's part of, again, as we mentioned earlier, that's probably part of the value proposition as well, right? How are we going to differentiate our product from the next one? Any questions? We're just rocking. Cool. Now I hope I have this next one correctly. Dang it. So you have to go to the last page. Nope. Yes, the last page. For revenue streams. It's a little out of order. I need to go fix that. So what we're getting into now a little bit is, and we'll talk a lot more about it, or a little bit more about it after the business model canvas, the different parts of a business plan, is the financial side of things, right? Which is where I would argue a lot of people, not even just bankers, investors, whoever it is, will spend a lot of their time because they want to see what you think you can do, what type of business you think you can do. So the revenue streams is just that, right? How is money coming in? And how are, like, it could be twofold. How's money coming in and how are we taking those payments, right? Or making sure that we're collecting on invoices and doing those types of things. And then how are we taking those payments, right? How are they currently paying? How would they prefer to pay? For what do they currently pay? I remember we went with the Small Business Development Center. We do a planning session every year, and we went up to Buffalo. We went to this, I can't remember what it's called, but it was a barbecue place. It was really, really good. But then when they're like, okay, let's split it up. This is how much you owe. And we all just pulled out our credit cards, right? And they're like, oh, we don't take that. We're like, what? So we had to run around and find an ATM and do all those types of things. So long story short, provide things that people want to pay with, right? A lot of the times anymore, people want to pay with a credit card. Yeah, it costs you a little bit more, but you can pass that expense to them. And excuse me, so where we're talking about that a little bit back in it's actually right there. Page 8 again, probably D&E, pricing scheme, sales volume, potential, and then even a little bit on the end, the last page or two. Let me get there. Because you'll put a little bit into cash flow projections, financial statements, just showing how that money is coming in. You know, if you're paying a certain percentage for a credit card, merchant service, or whatever it is. Does that make sense? Cool. All right, so now we're probably going to click back a page to key resources. Every business model requires key resources. These resources allow an enterprise to create and offer a value proposition, reach markets. Different key resources are needed depending on the type of business model. Describe the most important things a company must do to make its business model work. That's basically your key resources, right? Oh no, sorry. Describe the most important assets required to make a business model work. What type? Again, this depends on the type of business that you have. But if you're thinking about these, what's something important as far as an asset goes in a construction business? Say it again. Equipment. Trucks, dozers, whatever, right? Say it again. Weather.
Construction's cheaper to do in the summer months.
Oh, I see what you're saying. Yeah. That's definitely part of it for sure. For sure. So what we're driving at here is we're trying to figure out what pieces of equipment, what assets, whatever it might be, do we need to be able to offer that value proposition, right? And things like that, to be able to get, what do we need to be able to best offer our product or service to our clients? You can read a little bit there. A microchip manufacturer requires capital-intensive production facilities, whereas a microchip designer focuses more on human resources. Key resources can be physical, financial, intellectual, or human. Key resources can be owned or leased by the company or acquired from key partners. Does that make sense? What you need to be able to offer your value proposition, offer your product or service the best you can to your customer segment. These next two are kind of these next three are kind of intertwined, right? So the next one is key activities. Describes the most important things a company must do to make its business model work. What would be a key activity of any business, if you can think of one? Be open. You know what? I get that, because in a lot of places, or some places, they're like, well, we're open every other Monday, Wednesday, and Thursday from 2 p.m. to 3:30 p.m. and call for an appointment or something like that, right? Being able to offer the hours that people want to come in is huge. And keeping those hours is also huge. What else? What's another key activity? Easily accessible. Say it again.
Consistency.
In everything. Your product, your hours, service. Good. The most important actions a company must take to operate successfully. Those are your key activities. And I would argue that your whole thing here, the business plan, you'll find a lot of places that you'll put key activities. Marketing strategies, that's a key activity, right? Social media, or however you decide to market. Methods of production on page 10. That's a key activity. Make sure you're consistent in whatever you're producing. And this is another thing. So if you go to page 10 and 11 on the business plan template, you'll see part C is methods of production manufacturing. And then part C again is methods of production, sales operations, or retail. Usually you're one or the other, right? If you're manufacturing a product, you'll fill out the manufacturing side of things. If you're just buying and selling, you'll fill out the retail side of things. And then as we mentioned, you throw the other one out.
So what if we're a service-based business?
I would probably do the retail, sales operations, retail side of things. What is your business?
No mechanic.
Oh, cool. Diesel or all? Whatever grease you can get your hands in. All right. Good.
Typically, just regular commuter cars. The big rigs I don't really touch. But yeah, if you're, Ram 2500 needs something, I could probably fix it.
All right. Nice. Cool. Any questions? We're kicking butt today. Oh, I thought you saw somebody. You were going to go get him. If you don't, it's an automatic fail. Just kidding. All right, next one. Key partners. Again, fairly self-explanatory. Describes the network of suppliers and partners that make the business model work. Who's a key partner? Bank? That's right. First bank. Material supplier. Can be huge. Or if let's say you're a restaurant, who's a key partner? Cisco. Nicholas. Who else comes here? We have McFadden's in Rock Springs. Do you have a local one here? Like Cisco and Nicholas are the big ones? So the questions to be answered: who are our key partners? Who are our key suppliers? We can talk about those in page 10, part B. What are the materials, supplies, and or products needed to produce your finished marketable product or service? Briefly discuss your suppliers. That was the second point. Yes, sir. Yeah. Yeah, for sure. Did everybody hear that? A key partner is somebody who is in the industry and probably, like you said, preferably doesn't live here. That your direct competition, but that can help you answer questions or whatever. A lot of the times, that's a really good place to get information. If somebody is starting or wanting to start a business in, I don't know, soda pop store, right? You're probably not going to go and ask the owner of Fizz here in town, but you can go and maybe ask the Swig store in St. George or something. I don't know, right? Something like that. That's a good place to start. Okay. One more. Cost structure. Now we go back to that last page. Describes all costs incurred to operate a business model. I look at this one sometimes and I'll look at the cost from both sides of the coin, I guess, right? The cost that it costs you to buy supplies, materials, whatever it is, the product, and then the cost that you charge. And a lot of the times, again, what's the shameless plug for the Market Research Center? They can help with that. If you're like, I want to get into this industry, but I'm not sure if I'm charging per hour, if I'm charging per job, what I should be charging for a certain type of product. These guys can go out and say, well, in the Western United States, this is the average of what they're charging. If you want to do just Utah or the surrounding ones like Utah, Idaho, Montana, Colorado, Nebraska, whatever, right? They can get that. They can drill down as pretty far usually, depending on the type of business. If it's like coffee shops, they can drill down to the county in Wyoming, right? But if it's something more kind of not as numerous, then sometimes they have to open it up a little bit, but they can still give you a good idea of pricing, what the costs could look like, those types of things. It's really, really, really a cool center, the Market Research Center, of what they can offer. Questions? Get him, Rocco. They're all scared. They're looking at you. They're trying not to make eye contact with Rocco. So that's it. That's the business model canvas. Again, that was our diving board, right? Our jumping off point into the business plan. So I mentioned that I got business plans everywhere from this guy right here, from Bernie, all the way to a 75-pager, right? Bernie's business plan fails to impress the loan officer. Sales stuff, right? I'd almost argue that that would work in Wyoming, though, too. Sell it. They'll buy it and I'll sell it, right? I've got I got business plans that was I got sent back. Well, this was actually in this position. I got business plans that sent back like, hey, they got this whole business plan written on a page and a half. I'm like, okay, we need to put a little bit more information in there. And then the other side is, the 80-page where you're just like, I don't even know. I can't even consume this. I just got to go page by page, I guess. So as you have it in front here are your general components of a business plan. If we start there at the cover page, pretty simple, right? Get you a business plan outline. After that, we'll start at page 4. And we'll just kind of, I'm not going to go through every point, but we'll go through again just the big points of what I personally think is important to put in. As we mentioned at the beginning, right? That first one there, executive summary. Written last, but by far one of the most important parts of your business plan. Why do you think it's written last?
Fresh on your mind.
Okay.
You need to make sure you have all the information first.
Because you're summarizing it, right? Because it's a summary, right? So you can't summarize anything if you don't have anything written down. So that's what that executive summary would do. And that makes sense to me, right? I'm going to write everything and fill in as much as I can. And then when I feel like it's pretty much there, I'm going to go in and give a brief synopsis of my business plan, basically. So that makes sense to me, right? We talked a lot about the business description in part 2, writing that business or that mission statement in part A. And then just answering the questions as you go through. Organization and ownership, management, personnel, and advisors. Seemingly when you're writing it might not be a big deal, but I think like D and F is a real big portion of the business plan, right? Something that kind of caught me off guard when I first started banking was, if you had a guy that came in that had money and was like, I want to be a truck driver, right? Okay, well, how long have you been around trucks? Or, how long have you been driving? Blah, blah. I've never done it. I just want to do it. Right? I just feel like it'd be fun. I'll take my wife and my little dog with me, and we'll just have a good time. Right? Or you have a trucker that comes in and says, hey, I need a new rig. I don't have all of the money that I potentially might need. My credit is so-so. It's good enough, but maybe not as good as that other guy's. But I've been driving truck for 20 years, right? Who do you think they're more apt to loan to? The driver. Makes sense, right? So in these sections, especially in that part F, you're going to have to kind of toot your own horn, right? Write down why they should make that loan to you. Whether it be a banker, an investor, an angel investor, whatever it is. Tell them why. You tell them. Marketing plan, page 6. So we're already on the 3rd page there. We went over a lot of this as well. Describe your product and service. Describe it and that you plan to offer in detail. Huge portion on page 7, market analysis. Describe your target market. And then you'll see another kind of what we were talking about a little bit for products and services aimed at consumers, for products and services aimed at businesses. I dare say that a large percentage will be aimed at consumers, right? And so you won't do anything on the business side. Unless you plan to do both, then you can tell, hey, this is how we're going to do it. But generally, it's one or the other. what I've seen, it's usually one or the other. Competitive analysis. Market Research Center can help you with this. If you're not sure, you do a Google search and you don't find anything, that doesn't mean there's no competition in the area, right? Could be indirect competition. They talk about that a little bit on the back. What's indirect competition? Okay. Out-of-state companies? Well, see, and to me, more of an indirect competition is like, well, there's the thing. A movie theater competes directly with other movie theaters, but the theater is also competing indirectly with TV, online movie rentals, other entertainment, something that would draw that people away from the movie theater. Does that make sense? So that's kind of an indirect competition. Like a construction company is in direct competition with another construction company, but maybe an indirect competition with, I picked the wrong one because I don't know what the indirect competition. Say it again. With the DIYers. Ah, bang. Nice. I like it. Home Depot. Okay. And then those other ones are pretty self-explanatory. Part F, marketing strategies. Another huge thing. Present a clear and concise. How are we doing? Oh, we're plenty good. Present a clear and concise picture of how you plan to market, sell your product or service. We talked about that. That's how you're going to get your name out. How are you going to get your name out to that customer segment, that target market? All the other ones are kind of self-explanatory on page 9. Page 10, the operations plan. That's the fourth part of the business plan right there. I actually really like this section because in part A, it's got an implementation plan. It says, explain the tasks and events which must first be accomplished to implement the business plan. Basically, it says, go from where you're at right now, give me bullet points to opening up your business. What does that look like? Get money, get assets, open, whatever it is, right? Sell stuff. Yeah, that was Bernie's. Good. Materials and sources of supply, we talked about that, and the methods of production, whether it's manufacturing or retail. Part D, record keeping. We get to write about how we're going to keep records, which is super fun. Why do you think you put stuff like that in here? Why do they want to know that you're thought about record keeping? Say it again. Make sure you're organized. That's it. Make sure that you've at least thought about it. A lot of the times, not a lot of the times, but some of the times, and these are, I kind of feel for them because I like to do it. Some people don't. Rarely. Like you didn't get into business. You have a business right now. What's your business? Coffee shop. So did you get into the coffee shop business to sell coffee or to do QuickBooks? To sell coffee, right? Right? So rarely do people, if ever, get into a business to do QuickBooks or keep track of their records. Now, they wish they would when it comes April 15th-ish or March 15th, depending on what type of business you have. So they like the business plan is something to see that you thought about it, that you know that you need to do that. Even if it's like, hey, I've got a shoebox. No, don't do that. Don't do that. Do it, if anything, an Excel worksheet, something super simple. We could talk about that later. I could go way off the reservation on that one. Okay. Legal issues, we kind of talked about that. The fifth and final part there, the financial plan. This is usually when people are writing a business plan, just that hole in the head that is daunting and nobody wants to do it. Because you can see they want you to put together some type of what looks like a budget, a projection, and financial statements out of all of it. Now, if you already have a business, you can go off of what you've already done and just do a year-over-year projection. It's pretty simple. If you don't, it's all new, right? We got to come up with what we're going to sell, how much we're going to sell it for, what it's going to cost us, and how much we think we can sell. That's what's going to be a big portion of this financial plan. I don't have it. I didn't want to print that out because it didn't make much sense, but I do have a Excel worksheet that will do this, or a lot of it. And did I ever send that to you, Rocco? I think I sent it to you at one point. All of this is on our website, their website, the Jumpstart website. Yes. Would highly recommend going and grabbing that. Does all the formulas, all the calculations, everything you need. It'll do everything. Payroll, it throws in that percentage. I mean, it's a lot. It has an amortization schedule. If you're going to put a loan, you can say, I need $100,000 at 7%, monthly payments at 10 years. Here's pretty much what your payment is going to be. Then it breaks out principal and interest all the way down through the life of the loan, and then rolls it into the expense side of things, and it's awesome. It's again, I like the numbers. I'm weird that way, but it's cool. And another plug, please let me know if you have questions on that, on any of this, right? What I do, this is what I do. I give presentations and I talk to people about a lot about QuickBooks, but a lot about starting a business, running a business, what it takes, where to go from there, growth potential, whatever it is, right? That's what we do. We get paid to go out and talk to people in Wyoming that may potentially have struggles. That's what we do. So when I think we might be pretty close. Rocco, can you hand these out? So this is a little, I'll keep talking, but this is a little evaluation. There's a spot, I believe, on the front, at the bottom, for your name and your number. If you want to talk some more, or even if you want to just be included in our, we do monthly seminars, we do webinars, we do all kinds of things that are generally free to the public. If you want to take advantage of that, please put your name down there and your number. And then it even says if you want to talk a little bit later, yes, give me a call or shoot me an email or whatever it is. And that's how I know that you want to take the next step or talk with me. So, any questions? Yes.
Because I missed the very first couple of minutes.
Yes.
What was your name?
Rob Condi. Okay, let me see if I have the, yeah, right there. So this is my contact information. I do have cards that I forgot in my car, but I can go and grab some. I am located in Rock Springs, but I travel here as many times as I need to. Hopefully, usually at least once or twice a month. Well, especially when the weather gets a little better. Sometimes it's not as much right now just because of the roads, but a lot of the times, and I'll come here as often as I need to. Any questions over anything? Yes, ma'am.
Where could we find like a sample?
So what I would do you guys still do that? At one point you did that. You had sample business plans. Did I make that up? I made that up.
They should be on our website.
So there's sample ones there. If you just Googled a sample thing, you'd find it. You'd find a ton of business plans. Yeah, we have some too. The Googleable. Your website. What is your website?
JumpstartEvanston.org.
JumpstartEvanston.org. Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Yes.
So what would you say are the areas that you typically find people struggle with the most in business plans that you've reviewed? I'm sure there are tons of common themes out there. What do you feel?
The numbers sometimes people get hung up on. Yeah, just that they don't love that. The information, some of the information that that Market Research Center can get, they get hung up on a little bit. The industry trends, things like that. And I mentioned it a little bit as we were going through it, but some people really have a hard time touting themselves and saying, this is why I should get, I mean, your experience. You got to put it all out there. Put your experience out there. Why you should get that loan.
And then
It's a good question.
The areas that everyone seems to do better with, what would you say those are?
In the written portion
Yeah.
or whatever.
Well, anywhere really.
Yeah. Areas. That's a good question. I don't know that I've ever been asked that question.
And maybe there's not a clear
No, that's a good question. As far as they generally, I mean, the easier ones, right? Like, what type of an entity are you going to be? The organization and ownership. People are usually pretty keen on those types of things, and I usually see pretty good summaries, believe it or not, where they summarize it pretty well of what's coming in the rest of the plan. That's a good question. I'd have to think about that, and I could let you know if anything else comes up. What else? Hopefully we talked a little bit about the or we drove home the importance of why write a business plan, right? Yes, sir.
So I'm reading cash flow projections
Mm-hmm.
on page here, and I'm just curious, starting out with a business, how exactly would I forecast my income?
So here's a struggle. You asked that question just barely. That's probably one of the struggles. Projections are just that, right? They're projections. They're guesstimates, educated guesses. So I tell people that I could make you a lot of money really fast in projections, right? I also believe that the Market Research Center, we can help, and they can go out and say, okay, with your size of a town or whatever, this is what the financials on average look like. So you might be able to say, okay, well, I can generally put in $1,000 a day or whatever it is. So that cash flow projection worksheet that I have, it breaks it down, and you can go as granular as you want or as 30,000 foot level as you want and say, okay, I have a coffee shop. I'm going to sell, here's my coffees, here's my energy drinks, here's my lattes, here's my all these types of things. Or you can say, in general, the drinks that I sell cost me $2, I sell them for $4. I think, again, the biggest portion in my mind is like if you took your projections to Dave. Is it Dave or David? What do you prefer? D-Dog. Dave. If you took your projections to Dave and said, this is what I think I can make, he's going to say, tell me about it. Why do you think you can make that much money? You've just got to be able to mitigate whatever you put down, right? If you, like I say, I've done ones before where they come back. I actually just did one. There was a place in the Valley, and they're like, my first year, it was a restaurant. My first year, I'm going to make $986,000. I said, no, you're not. You're in the Valley. That is one heck of a stretch for 2,000 people. Yeah, you got some tourists coming through, but that's very cyclical, right? We talked about it in Wyoming. It's very cyclical. And you'd have to be charging some crazy money to make that much. So we talked about it. Hey, I think you should go back, figure out how many people you think, this is what I usually tell people, how many people you think you can get through the door in a day, and what you think maybe your average ticket will be. Again, depending on what it's going to be. A mechanic's probably going to be different than a coffee shop, right? You could have something as easy as a tire fix that you'll charge $30 for, or, hey, my transmission fell out. I don't know, right? You probably had that, I'm guessing. Yeah. Don't call me, call him, call this guy. But that's a good question.
You don't want to do that in the driveway?
Not again. I'm good. Done it a couple
What
times.
else? Feel like this maybe it's because I was over here that I didn't spend a lot of time over on the right side. Any questions?
So if I'm selling different sizes of a product, like let's say it's a coffee business, would I want to take the average cost of what I make it for versus the average price of what I sell it for?
See, and that definitely depends on what you think you can do. The cash flow, hopefully I have the right one that I sent to you. If not, I can send it again. Yeah, I've had a short one and then I had a long one where you could put in like 60 different things that you're going to sell. That one would probably be the best one, right? the one that you would really have to go and think point for point. But if you had 3 different things and that was mainly what you were going to sell, I would probably just do those 3 different things. Does that make sense? As opposed to trying to just average those together, then you could really say, okay, well, I've got a small, medium, and large.
Yeah, because you
And
don't know if more people are going to buy
yeah,
larges that
yeah,
day
you
or
don't.
smalls that day. Or,
You don't. That's a good question. What else? So, to reiterate, please call me, email me, text me. That number's a work cell phone. I'll get back to you as soon as I can. I'm in the office usually 8 to 5, Monday through Friday. This is what we do. It costs nothing to you guys. If you get a business plan written or parts of a business plan written, I'm moving around now. If you get parts of a business plan written and want another set of eyes on it, do that all the time. You will have some questions of putting together that cash flow.